Hmm. Good morning, Grand Rising.
Good morning. A little
How you
early
doing?
this morning. Well, for those
It's
who
early for you. You get up before the sun. It's 10:30. I've never heard you say that at 10:30.
really it's not, but I'm on day 2 of this nasty cold and
Oh.
launching a book about wellness, which is really ironic because I rarely
Mhm.
ever get sick. And
Right.
I think it's just the year catching up with me. I was thinking about this today because, we did 3 lives yesterday, talked to
Yeah.
a lot of our authors. Really, when I used to get folks ready to be foster adoptive parents,
Yeah.
we would talk about family recipes and we would talk about family recipes for the common cold because almost everybody has one. So I thought that may be my theme today,
Mhm.
to ask some of our authors about wellness is what do they do for a common cold
Yes.
and to help it shorten and, I think
Mhm.
it's one of those things that it doesn't matter how well you are when you finally catch a cold, like, you're going down.
Well, I
Yeah,
I I beg to differ though because of the recipes, right? And like you said, it does shorten it. So yes, you go down. And again, we talked yesterday about if that's where you are, be there, right? Say, "Oh,
right,
body, I feel you. I hear what you're saying. I'll listen," right?
right,
Um, but there if you're healthy, it is easier. You know what I mean? I
right.
know when like,
Yeah,
again, I believe Shaylo Glow, we recovered, we didn't get sick, ran out of Shaylo Glow, ran around somebody who was sick, got sick, right? But because we had been running 4 times a week and drinking our water and drinking kombucha, you know what I mean? Like, it was still not fun, but I'm back to 100%, and I know that's not everybody's story, so I'm grateful for,
right.
yeah, a good foundation.
Well, I think also, I mean, our listeners know, like, some of what's happened this year in my life, but there's been so much more, and,
Yeah.
this last weekend, I took a break, which is always fascinating to me, and I know this about my life, right? I
Yeah.
run at about 120 miles an hour on the regular, right?
Mhm.
And then when I slow down, my body's like, "Oh, yeah, hey, guess what?"
Mm. Mm.
And I've done better at it over the years. It's
Mhm.
just this year, as you know, has been a little bit much. So,
Yes.
all right. So we're gonna bring our guest up because y'all today, while we're here again, is we're day 2 of launching Women Connected in Wisdom,
Yes.
Volume 2, Day
Yes.
2, Stories and Resources Rooted in the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. We have incredible authors, incredible stories, incredible resources for you, incredible reviews that are coming in. Like,
Okay.
this is ridiculously fun.
Yeah, it
And
is.
we're going to bring 2 of our authors up that are backstage, and they do have to answer the question, though, today,
Let's
like,
start
how
the
to
party.
fix my cold. Here we go.
Eileen, Cecile,
Hey,
good morning.
good morning. How are
How
y'all?
good. How you
Good
guys
morning.
doing?
Good
How you
morning.
ladies? Eileen, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Not hearing, so I'm very excited about this topic. Can I just dive in on it?
Let's
Yes.
dive
Let's
in.
Okay,
make it
so
about
I
wisdom. Tell me
have
what
had
to do.
I haven't had a cold or flu for 9 years,
Mm,
and I don't take flu shots. So
Okay.
this isn't. I'm not trying to be a medical anybody. I'll just tell you what I do. I
Mm,
discovered a plant called
mm.
golden seal. I tried growing it in my garden. It took everything over. It's such a strong
Wow.
plant. And it's powder that's available, and I take it for about 5 days. As soon as I notice something like in my throat, I
Mhm.
take it for about 5 days. The way you would take an antibiotic, I take like 2 capsules 4 times a day. And when I first did it, I also took vitamins with it just to strengthen it, but I've been doing that now for 30 years. And
mm,
I went to visit my son recently. He had a bad cold and ear infection, and somebody else in the family was sick. I felt the scratching. I took the golden seal. I was really feeling bad one night, and within an hour, it was gone because I've been taking
wow.
it so long, my body really responds. So either I'm it's a placebo effect beyond belief, or the stuff is magic. I don't know which, but
Right?
that's what I do. And I and I wanted to also. I used to have an internet radio podcast, and I interviewed a man who wrote a book called Health. It's a Matter of Consciousness. I think
Right?
his name was Ivan Radovich.
Mm.
And he said that he was offering all kinds of things you could do on a consciousness level to stay well. But then he said, and this is for you, Christine, he said, but then if you do get sick, enjoy the sickness.
Mm.
Right? I was reading last night about, and I do know our bodies listen to us. I know my body listens to me. So I was telling it it's healing. Like, you don't have to get sick to take a break, because that's an old story in my family that I thought I had
Mhm.
cleared. Right? Because I grew up in a family that unless literally you needed to go to the hospital or a bone was sticking out or bleeding, like, you had to show up. You weren't allowed to rest, right? It was just the culture we were brought up in. And I
Mhm.
that a long time ago. And so it's been years since I've been sick, but I have been running a little full tilt this year. So I think my body is like, hey, you're not listening. Or maybe because I slowed down this weekend, it's like, hey, you're listening. And guess what? I don't know. Or it could just be common cold, you
I
know?
think that's really, really important, Christine, because I remember years ago when I first was working on illness, this was back in the late 60s. I realized that what we do is we get ourselves involved and we start going out further and further and further away from ourselves. And then we get ill and we go, well, I can't do that anymore. I'm sick. And
Mm,
so I came to to thinking about, well, what if I notice myself going like this and say, take a break, like you're talking about,
yep.
before I have to say I'm sick. And I started practicing with that, and it worked like a charm.
Yep. I agree. I agree. This one kind of snuck up on me. How are you this morning, Cecile?
I'm doing good.
Good.
And I feel you on that whole topic. I'm one of those people that used to run themselves to burnout before I would take a break. But I can't say that I have totally broken the habit, but I'm working on that.
Right. So, what's your
Hmm.
family cure for the common cold,
That's what I
Cecile?
was gonna ask.
Say it again.
What's your family cure for the common cold?
Oh my gosh, my family does not have one common common thing. My mom likes Theraflu, that nasty tasting drink. But I will say that does tend to knock it out. Um, I remember growing up that my mom used to make us take that Phillips 666. Have y'all ever taken that?
Oh,
I don't think
years
it's
ago.
on the market right now.
What is that?
Wasn't it kind of like
Yeah, that.
turpentine? It was. Didn't it have kind of like turpentine? Like, if it didn't kill you, it cured you.
Well, it was hard to swallow. I used to throw up because it was so nasty.
Your body was trying
Yeah,
to protect
Talk
you.
about I'm sorry, Christine, what'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying her body was trying to protect her. Like,
Right.
right.
That is not enjoying
Yeah.
the sickness, okay?
No, that was not enjoying the sickness. Not at all.
So what do you think about now? What do you use?
Now I use now now I mostly use like hot stuff. I'll use like hot tea with local honey, and I use essential oils mixed with the oils that I rub on my body. I use a lot of different things, and I also use meditation and rest. Those
Oh,
two are, you
yeah.
know, you have
Wonderful.
to have those two to start with.
so let's talk about the specific essential oils because I know different ones do different things. What oils do you
Mhm.
like specifically when you sit?
Frankincense is my go-to for everything. And then I build on them. If I'm feeling run down and I need energy, then I use peppermint. Um, I use well, like I said, frankincense is my go-to. I'm trying to think because I use so many for so many different things.
Use
Um,
lemongrass for anything?
yes, yes,
Love lemon.
lemongrass is in one of my basic oils that that I have that I use kind of regular.
Mhm.
I use clary sage quite a bit, especially on my
Clary
hair. Um, I use Absolute Rose.
Mhm.
I've got some Healy. I can't remember. I don't know how you pronounce it. Helichrysum, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. hmm I don't use a
Healy.
lot of lavender because my mom can't stand the smell. I like it, but if I use it and it's bothering her, so I stopped using that as much.
And we know you're a
Yeah.
considerate family member. We know that. I
Yeah.
love it. I hear you on your list. Okay.
hmm
So,
I
and
would add in one thing that I remembered. My daughter, my adopted daughter, Robin, worked in the jungle in Ecuador for 10 years with a maternal health program for indigenous people there. And I didn't realize till I went to visit her that her body paid such a big price for being there because there was always parasites and bugs and infections. But what she healed herself with was ginger, raw ginger tea.
Yep, that's a good reminder.
Yeah,
Joe
I use
made
ginger a
me.
lot.
We talked about it last night on the when we were on air. Joe made me this delicious mushroom and onion soup that has really been
Oh man,
helping. Because when folks in my family get sick, if I'm the one caretaking, I do a from scratch chicken tortilla soup that has all the properties. But when I'm sick, I usually don't cook. So he did this beautiful mushroom and onion soup. And so that's what I've been living on yesterday and today. I even had some for breakfast this morning. My body was like, ooh, give me those. Give me those onions. But ginger, I haven't done. I'll do some ginger tea this afternoon.
really
yeah.
good.
And you
Um,
know,
I was a single parent for 20 years and couldn't afford medical care, but I discovered something called the Bach flower remedies. Are you guys familiar with those?
Yep.
no. Say
There
more
was a
about
doctor in England. His name was Bach, Bach,
it. Mhm.
and he worked with groups of people like who would have, say, polio. That's not what they had at that time, but
I hear you.
nonetheless, he found that people with different illnesses had different emotional states.
Mm.
And he would go out in the countryside. He theorized that the flowers of a plant would be the most potent. So he would induce a state in himself, an emotional state, and then walk around until he found the flowers that calmed it, that worked with it. And he ended up making a number of essences, tinctures. That you can just put a few drops in a glass. And so when my kids got sick, we tracked back, since I work with emotions, we tracked back what emotions might have been coming up in them, and we treated those. Like I think chestnut is one that's good for worry, for example. And you can put up to 5 of them in a little glass of water and sip it. I even tried it on my chickens. I had a sick chicken and I figured out what she might be feeling, and she got better.
Love it.
I love that story.
Mhm.
You talking about that makes me think about the time that I healed my dog with sound bowls. That
Oh,
had I had this was an elder dog that I had years ago named Merlin, and he was a rescue dog, and he was really getting up there in age, and he had a night that he was up all night and he had a blockage. You could tell like something was really wrong. And so I took him to the vet the next day, and we were on one of those plans where when you have an older dog you pay a certain amount a month and then you get services that don't hit you all at once. So they did an ultrasound and they realized he had a blockage, and they recommended surgery, and it was going to be like $3,000 surgery. And I was raised on a farm in Texas, and I love animals, but I'm also a social worker. And I immediately think, how many families could that feed? Right. And even if I had an extra $3,000 laying around, would I spend it on an 18-year-old dog who the doctor said may not even make it out of surgery because of his age? So, I was in that dilemma and my heart was broken. And I leave the vet's office and I'm just crying, and I'm driving home. because I have to make a decision, right? And I always call it the voice in the back seat. I don't know what y'all call it when
Oh,
intuition
nice.
pops up, but I don't know if it's guides, intuition, what, but I heard the voice in the back seat said, "Hey, don't you believe in alternative medicine?" And I was like, "Oh, do I believe in alternative medicine? What do I have in my toolkit for this situation?" Right. And I thought about my sound bowls. And so I went home and I wish I would have recorded this, but I was so sleepy because I'd been up all night with him and he was sleeping. So I sat in the living room and I held him in my arms. He was like a little, was he a Maltese? He was a white little fluffy dog, and I held the bowls up against his blockage and I just started playing the bowls. And it became really kind of ceremonial. And I thought, well, it could shift something or it's a goodbye. Either way, it's a beautiful ceremony. And so I probably played bowls on him for 20 or 30 minutes. And I wake up the next morning and he has cleared the blockage, whatever this stone was, because there's this huge pile of pee, and he was fine. And so the vet calls like 2 days later to give condolences because they expected that without surgery he was going to die within 2 days. And I said, "Oh, he's fine." And they were like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, we played the balls on him. Something shifted. He's okay. He lived 2 more years." Like,
Wow. Wow.
and it was just that reminder because I am I hold both often, like Western, Eastern, like traditional, holistic. I'm willing to look at all options and really feel into what makes sense for my body or my person or my thing. But it was an interesting reminder, right? That, oh yeah, if this way doesn't work or you can't afford this way, what is something that might work, right? What
Mhm.
do we have in our toolbox?
And I also love the idea of doing both, right? I was talking to somebody about treatment and the harshness of chemotherapy and coupling it with the red light therapy and different things, that is, again, regenerative at the same time, while you might be doing something else that is recommended that you want to do. Or it depends. Like sometimes you just want to go the natural way. And when I was working in Lupa's kitchen and was taught by a naturopathic doctor, that's what she told me. Sometimes if we're taking you on a really strict diet or some type of way that they're treating them, sometimes it can conflict. So it's like, which one do you want to go with? What are you most comfortable with? Listening to your body, like you were saying, Christine, and
Mhm,
going from there. But I love that story about how nature heals both us and our pets. And so you see it working by keeping it
mhm,
simple. That reminds me how Shaylo Glow healed my business partner Sino's his dog because he had something on his skin and his, what is it called, a pelt on dogs, and his skin and his fur. And Shaylo Glow over days was able to heal it and get him back up running around, making sure that the house was safe. And that's what I think about too when I get sick. Because again, when I did get COVID, we were out of the glow butter. I said, "Oh no, my defenses on my immune system were down. The gates were open and I got sick." And so usually
mhm,
if I'm not feeling well, that is missing. Like somewhere, maybe I was putting it on my hands or different places, but I wasn't putting it on my whole body. So I'll recommit to that. And then the question is also about the inside. Kombucha is usually what I do. So I love
mhm,
kombucha because it balances your pH, right? That's important for women for different reasons, but also for your gut. And so when your gut is balanced, then your brain can be balanced, and that helps with your emotional state. So
mhm,
if you're like me and you might not be an emotional pro like Eileen, and an expert in her book, she writes about these 12 different emotions that she's been studying for decades. I know whatever it is, let me get back in balance. And kombucha helps with that. I know in our
mhm.
culture, when we pop a can, usually we'll drink a whole Sprite. We'll drink a whole whatever is in front of us, right? I don't drink a
Mhm,
whole kombucha. I literally take it like medicine. I drink a little sip or maybe a couple of gulps, and I balance it with water and make sure I'm um, getting my vitamins and minerals from greens, including that in the day, and then that with
mhm,
whatever else. Oh, and lemon honey tea is something that one of my stepmoms did. Right. And so this is
mhm,
the thing with me. You ask about family recipes, when we're talking about intentional dimensional wellness for the generations, I'm on the side of being disconnected to family and not having that old traditions. This is what we do in our family. And the family I was connected to was through marriage. So one of my stepmoms, the one who juiced for my dad when he had cancer, and is the reason that he's here, I believe, without a stomach. Like, how did that juicing? right? So juicing green vegetables. And what was I saying about Yolanda? What does she do? I feel like I lost my train of thought. Oh, the lemon honey tea.
Lemon
And
honey tea,
so
yeah.
exactly, she
Mhm.
always did that. And so with narration, with the transition of the season, if I feel like I got that little scratch in the back of my throat, like Eileen, you were saying when you guys started, what did you do? The golden seal powder, right? That's when I do my lemon honey tea.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You
I
know, I
also
juiced when I got diagnosed with cancer also. I
How was
juiced for a
that?
year.
Mm,
Well, the cancer didn't disappear, but it didn't grow in a year, which is I was trying to see if I could. I also ate a raw diet.
Mhm,
And there's a book online called We Want to Live by Von der Planets that
mhm.
tells you how to plan a raw diet. It didn't disappear, but it didn't grow at all in a year's time from
and
Yeah.
doing
that's
that.
a huge win.
When my mom had breast cancer, I juiced for her and
Mm,
also did a
Right.
lot of energy work. We weren't in the same place the whole time, and so I did distance Reiki, and that helped manage her pain. And I was going to say, piggybacking on your sound bowls, Christine, that energy work is essential. I didn't know how to do it when I was younger, but I do it now. Um, and you can do it on yourself, or you can do it on other people, and I know that when I talk to people, they think that it's something like magical and only certain people can do it, but this is something that anybody can do. And I've worked with people like in person, helping to like heal broken bones faster. I've worked with people from a distance and had people work with me from a distance to help heal anything
Wonderful.
from, a common cold to like heart issues. So,
wow.
energy work is powerful.
Yeah.
Can I
And I
put one more plug for emotions in because we
yes.
know now that repressed anger is one of the uh, causative factors for development of heart disease and cancer. And so learning to release the emotions and let the energy of the emotions go is vital also for staying healthy. Sorry about that, Shannon.
No, please, no need to apologize. This is why we're here, right? Um, what I was thinking about is the next Glow Club event. And we're talking about the science of sound and self care and sound bowls. Jeremy's coming from Decatur and he teaches people how to play different instruments, has an array of different sound bowls, an ocean drum. I didn't know that was a thing. You know, he's going to bring his wooden flute and a couple of different things to the retail space. And so when we talk about Shalo Glow and the natural things we can do to take care of ourselves, we're going to talk about that frequency, because I think about it just like the pH. That's the chemical balance in your body, but then there's the energy that we are also made of that we talk about. And so that's what I see the sound doing. The sound can um, relax your muscles, right? And the arteries and everything in your body and the animal's body so that it's able to do what it needs to do to take care of itself. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I
So,
think about women connected in wisdom and
mhm,
talking about whether it is in when we're sick or when we're healthy, like those connections and that energy between people. And
mhm.
the energy between these authors in this book, when you read their stories, is pretty magical. Like it is I am just delighted for the things that have been coming in regards to our reviews. Eileen, right now we have 21 reviews in so far,
Oh,
just
Wow,
from
good.
yeah, and we just launched the book yesterday.
mhm.
This one, let's see. This one says incredibly encouraging and relatable. Oh, I think I read this one. I read that one yesterday. Let me skip that one. I read that one online yesterday. This one says an amazing and insightful read. This is a review from Susan S. She says, Women Connected in Wisdom, Volume 2 was such an insightful and thought provoking read. I love the diversity of the women authors, each with the common thread to teach and share their wisdom in a nurturing and caring way. The honesty and wisdom of all the different facets of caring for ourselves was extremely interesting. I highly recommend this book to anyone looking to be enlightened and learn a thing or two. Cheers to these wise women.
I
Yeah.
happen to know
Thank
that person, and she is an interpreter in a medical setting.
Oh,
So
Wow.
she's really knows what she's talking about.
And that's
Oh,
Susan.
I just picked one you knew.
Susan S.
Shout out to you, Susan S. That's very
Right,
important. Interpreting
Okay,
right.
and
great.
we got to be understood. Okay. I
I
love
love
that.
that.
And Eileen, this reminds me of our conversation we were having about how your voice fits, right? And I was thinking about how you said from the 60s, you've been doing this research, right? And how in your chapter
Actually, from the 70s. Yeah.
from the 70s, so decades, right?
Yeah.
And from your chapter, when you're talking about looking for the research, looking for how to work with this anger that you can't get rid of, right? And there was no references, there was no research, there was nothing you could find. And so here we are today after you doing all this work, right? And I was saying that if we were both there at the same time, you and I would not have been going into the same libraries, right? So you
Right.
would think that mine might be less resourced, things blacked out, pages removed, right? And so if you were saying that you went to the resources and the libraries that you could go to, and even you couldn't find anything, that's very important for us to know, right? And for us to give perspective on how big it is that we have this information and to use it to our benefit if we can do things naturally and get the results that we're looking for.
Right. We still don't have a good understanding because you're talking about working with bowls and with healing and whatever. We're talking about vibration and energy. And
Right.
that's where we're all going. I think Cecile, Shannon, Christine, we're all talking about uh, getting ourselves to be able to resonate with the energy that we need to resonate with, and so that's what. Now I've lost my track. But at any rate, working with emotions is
Yeah.
letting the energy move so that we can heal ourselves. And actually, we then don't have to heal ourselves. We basically just have to get ourselves out of the way.
And then we could just be in
And we
flow.
can let that which is larger than ourselves heal
Mm.
us. I was looking at speaking of dogs, I was looking at my dog the other day and realizing I think she had an upset tummy or something.
Hi.
But dogs seldom, yeah, Pi did.
Ooh.
Dogs seldom are ill, and if they get something that's going to kill them, it works fairly fast usually, and but they just allow the healing, they allow themselves to be healthy. So I was thinking about that as a mindset. How do we allow ourselves to be healthy?
That's kind of in line with what I talk about in my chapter, Let Your Body Be
Right,
Your Guide, about
right.
getting in your body and allowing yourself to feel what you feel as like the
Mhm.
first step to having hard conversations. You know that you're already feeling kind of tense. You know that, you're going to be talking about things that make you nervous or anxious, and getting in your body and allowing yourself to feel what you feel and recognizing what you feel. That's kind of right in alignment with that, because that's what
Absolutely.
creates the capacity for everything else to happen.
I really enjoyed reading your story, and I realized I learned something
Oh,
about
thank
this
you.
cancer. My husband had been sick for 5 years with cancer, and I continued to work, but he died. He stayed at home through the whole process, and it was stressful. And sometimes he wanted to be controlling, like, how long are you going to be gone? I don't want you to leave, those kinds of things. And so I realized that part of the reason that I developed a breast cancer, and I found out that a lot of women whose husbands have a prolonged death process get breast cancer, which is interesting. So that whenever I was diagnosed with it, I went also to my body, like, what is my body trying to tell me here? And my body said, "Oh, you haven't been giving yourself enough love. Your love's been going out to other people." And that was so helpful. Yeah, I really enjoyed reading your chapter on that. And thank you.
Thank you
Mhm.
so
It's
much. I
That's one
enjoyed
of the
yours
things I
too.
like about the body that or about the book, is that we're all coming from different places, but we all seem to interweave.
Hmm.
So it's great.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
lifting
you.
that up about caregivers, Eileen. Like in the first book that I co-wrote with Dr. Sheila K. Collins, we talk about that. for caregivers. And the statistics on caregivers keep getting worse. Shannon and I often talk about this on the podcast. And often caregivers die before the person that has the prolonged illness because they are giving everything, just like you identified, like you're giving everything out and you can't give from an empty vessel. So
Right.
that piece, that self-care is not selfish. Like, in order to do
Absolutely.
community care, especially sustained community care and long term, which most of our families in the world needs right now, we've got to start with our bodies, ourselves, our self-care.
Yes. And that's what I'm talking about in the chapter maximize your capacity, right? One thing I try to make sure I do is operate from a place of rest and not
Mm.
hustle, got to do this, got to do that. So we do a lot, right? But I still operate from a place of rest, right? And I even writing the chapter, I said, oh, you know what? I'm trying to move the rest into this other step. Let me separate it. And I still find myself having to stop myself, right?
Mhm.
But that is why it's so important. Like we said, it's not just all everything's always going to be okay. We're talking about how to absolutely like get through the situations because we know there's ups, there's downs, there's mountains, there's valleys, and we can reach for goals, but that's going to be how long? That's going to be a few moments. You know, these lives are a few moments, and then the journey is the writing the book signings and the collaboration and everything that comes after it. So paying attention and giving yourself grace as you take care of other people is absolutely necessary, and it's an emergency at this point. It's like an epidemic of um, overextension and neglect, you know, and that's what I talked about in volume one with the intentionally taking care of your physical wellness and doing that on a daily basis to check in with yourself and come back to your body. How Cecile is amazing at walking us through. And Christine, you do a great job getting us centered and taking a deep breath at the beginning. And in volume two, as we shift, right, as COVID and life in general throws you things that you can't expect, and now you have to take care of a family member. Maybe you're not a nurse. You know, my best friend was not a nurse and she took care of her mom for 10 years. And so
Mm.
how do you add that into your habits? You know, if you have to do this, okay, let's try to bring healthy habits and make it most effective where we can so that when new information comes and there's a new stage or a new transition in life, we can be as present and as full and enjoy that moment of the journey as much as possible, and then go to the next phase and do the next thing to make it
Yeah, I was
sustainable for the longevity.
I was waiting for you to
Yeah.
say that word habit because
Yes,
you
and you're
know
my
that's my
reminder. I
thing.
still need the reminder.
Okay, that's
Yes,
my thing. It's about making it a habit. That's why my website, my business is Everyday
yes,
Activism Habit, because it's not about all the time, being out there for the marches and, when there's a protest and all that kind of stuff. It's about what are
right.
you doing every day to sustain yourself to keep the movement going. So with this, it's like, what are you doing every day to sustain your health? And it's about
Right.
the
Mhm.
small things that you do every day that you can turn into a habit so you don't have to think about it all the time and you don't have to use that mental energy and willpower because you built it into a habit. And so you've got that foundation. So if something does go wrong, when you fall back on your habits, when you have low energy and you don't have the brain power, you fall back on your habits and you've already
Yeah.
got that foundation to make you better.
Mhm.
Same
So
Hmm.
with emotions. I encourage people to uh, to get in the habit of looking at emotions when they come up, identifying what they're trying to offer, learning the lessons so they can move on. And Christine, I want to add something to the to what you were saying also about selfishness. People so often think if we take women in particular, we do this. If we take care of ourselves, then we're being selfish. And I would like people to think more in terms of when I, as a helper, a therapist, when I take care of myself, then nobody else outside of me needs to be responsible for me, and I have more to give. So when I take care of myself, contrary to being selfish, it's really my gift to others in my world.
Yes, 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 Eileen, I
Thank
agree.
you.
And I
Thank
think
you.
that's a great note for us to wrap on.
yes, yes. So thank you so much, ladies, for being here. Volume two has been it's been beautiful, and I can't wait for it to continue to unfold. So if you guys are here and you're watching the recording, you're here watching live, this is our wrap of the launch of You wanted to say something else, Cecile?
No, I was going to say I really have to go because I'm supposed to be starting my live like 5 minutes ago.
Yes, please. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
I'll
All
see
right.
if I
I'll
can
see
keep
y'all
it.
later.
Yes, see you soon.
See you
Okay,
soon.
y'all. So
Hope to see y'all over there.
yes. So
You
again,
bet.
we're wrapping the launch of Volume 2, Day 2. We are running for Amazon bestsellers. So if you have not gotten your copy, go over to Amazon.com and we'll see you on the next live. We'll be on the different authors' platforms and back here at 1 o'clock.
All right. Thanks for being here,
Bye.
Eileen.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.